3D modeling class. It's week 15. Uh, First, let me just start by saying please continue to work on your final projects, and please let me know if you're having troubles. I'd be happy to meet with you, Zoom with you, and talk about your life as a 3D modeler. I was thinking about topics for this week, and I feel like originally I had on the schedule to talk about other 3D programs, but I feel like it's not necessarily as vital of a topic because I think I sort of glossed over the subject of retopology a little bit. And a student was asking about like preparing things for game design and game engines and stuff like that. And so I thought about just kind of revisiting this briefly, showing you a method for retopology and why retopology is even a thing if we're talking about like animating or game design. So I have whipped up in less than 3 minutes this really great sculpted head here. Right? Yeah. So if you are modeling and creating, and this applies very much so for characters, but really anything else that you might model that could be used for like animation or game design. Retopology is a consideration. So if we look at the example of this big old dome here, and I go to my overlays here and I turn on statistics, this will show us how many faces we have here on this guy, and it's 50,000. And so like, remember, if we're sculpting, if I go back to my sculpting workspace here, and we've got dynamic topology, sorry, I want to turn on wireframe like this. If we're doing dynamic topology with sculpting, you can remember like if I'm zooming in like this, it's adding lots and lots of details like this. It's adding so many faces. So just like to make my mesh even worse, I'm just gonna like add a bunch more faces like this. Okay. Yes, look at that. It looks like he's got a little rouge. So let me turn this off now so it's a little easier to see. Why do I always immediately forget how I did that? Geometry wireframe. Okay. Now if I go back to my like layout view here, and here we go. It recalculated it. We upped that by about 13,000 polygons just by doing that. And so now imagine you have a very detailed, highly sculpted, full character. You know, arms, legs, the works, clothes. You can have over 1 million polygons easily with sculpting, and yes, it may look fine, and you may be able to get a render. But if this was an animation, or if this was going to be animated, it's way too much detail for a game engine. Because like, imagine you're playing your favorite video game, and it's doing 30 frames per second, and it needs to render like the whole world 30 times every second. If it takes you, 10 minutes to render one frame, that's not going to cut it. So for a long time here, we'll go back to just like story time a little bit. So for a very long time, detail, and still today really, detail is created in games with good materials, detailed textures on things. And I think I talked about this when we were doing the ship renders, but that like you can add like lots of like wood grain and like letters and type and stuff on things as just a flat image. And so you load it into the scene and you use UV projecting to just put it on top of things. And that 100% still applies today. Computer hardware has like allowed for more and more detailed meshes as well. But like if you were gonna have something in a game made out of wood, you would never ever like just like actually model like the grain of the wood. You would always just put wood material on there. And game engines and 3D engines and stuff like that now have fancy enough features that it can like calculate and fake bumps in things using that flat image. So you're wasting your time if you're modeling individual bumps and stuff. So, but that's not to say that if you're creating a character that you shouldn't put in as much detail as you want. Because I'll show you a way that you can kind of work off of your highly detailed image to create, or highly detailed model to create a lower poly count model that coexists together. So you can still have your super high res model and have one that's more easily shared with an animator or a game designer or things like that. And we'll do that through, and like a lot of times when people bring up the topic of retopology, it's sort of like, what's the magic trick? What's the plugin that I need to make this really easy for me? And the answer is there isn't. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. There are fancy plugins that do this, but it's never as reliable as just doing it by hand, doing it yourself. And if this is something that, like, there are people whose full-time job is to retopologize models for games and movies and things like that. And if this is something that you do and want to do and probably should do if you're making models for animation, you'll get faster at it and it'll become less tedious. Okay, so let's look at Blender. Look at my dude here. So his name is Gorf, that I just made up on the spot, and we'll call this Gorf High Res. I'm renaming him. Let's enable a add-on that you maybe have never used before, and so go to your edit menu and go down to preferences, and we want to go over to your add-ons, and this one is called F2. It's called Mesh F2, and so what this does, it allows you to use the F key to do nice things. I'll explain. So check that, Mesh F2, and we're off to the races. So we have 62,000 faces. Let's crank this down a little bit. So the basics of what we're going to do is we are going to remodel this. And you might think, like, Nolan, you're a dummy. We don't have to redo it. We're going to kind of like we're going to like cover up the face of this and kind of lay it on the front of Gorf's face here through the use of a couple of modifiers. Well, and if you're thinking, well, Nolan, why don't you use like the decimate modifier? I'm gonna duplicate this real quick. Shift D, or how do you do that? Copy paste, Control V, Control V. There we go. Gorf high res 001. So let me hide original Gorf here. And yes, there is a modifier that's called decimate, and it's here behind me. Decimate. And this will dumb down your mesh. Let me turn down. Let's see. Is this even doing anything? Are you decimating? Yes. Okay. So you can see that as I crank this down, we can get all the way down to a single triangle. This is one way to make your mesh simpler. Absolutely. This is an easy way to just like dumb down the polygon count. So you can see if I decimate but to a ratio of 0.05, where I'm already at 3,000 faces, and maybe that'll work for you. But especially with characters, you want to have there's a specific way you want your polygons to be arranged, and mostly kind of around places that move. So like mouths need to open and close. So you'll end up creating a loop of faces around the mouth, and same thing with eyes. Like you'll have a loop of polygons around the eyes. So just like other things, like if you were animating fingers, like you would want to have loops of faces that go around your fingers, etc. So this, you can do this. This is illegal. You're legally allowed to do this. But I'm going to show you the what some consider to be the correct way to retopologize a character. So I'm going to delete this one here and turn regular Gorf back on. Okay, and get out of, there we go. Okay, let's even just shade smooth. Can we shade smooth? Can we? Sure. All right, so first things first, what's going to be really helpful for this is actually if we can't select, if we turn off our ability to select the original Gorf. So here, I believe if you hit this little filter here, restriction toggles. So the ones you are accustomed to seeing are just like visible and render. But if you do selectable here, this little arrow, you can check that. And now you have a column of the little cursor here. And if you hit hit the little arrow next to Gorf High Res, now we can no longer accidentally select him. So that's that is going to be helpful for what we're doing here. Okay, so to start with our new mesh, we'll call it like the low res, Gorf low res. Let's just start with a plane. So Shift A, mesh, plane. Great. I'm gonna GUI kind of, whoops. Oh, and I spoiled things a little bit because I was already working on this beforehand. Okay, GUI, I'm gonna move it up to the front. Rotate like this. Whoops, undo. RX 90. Okay. Real quick. Oh, and see, like some of my settings have already been changed. I spoiled things a little bit. We want to, I'm going to scale this down. So this is going to be like one of our polygons that we end up putting on Gorf's face here. And how people used to do this is, I'm trying to get a front view. Oh, and I realize I'm facing the wrong way. They used to actually just use orthographic views to kind of like really line up the mesh as much as possible. But we've got some nice snapping features here in Blender that's really going to help us out. So I'm going to kind of attempt to move this in a little closer, just kind of get it close to his face there. And then up here, dead center on the top, snap. Turn this on. You can, there's lots of different snapping options here, but I want to snap to the face nearest. And so as we're moving this around, it's going to kind of be snapping to any face in the scene that's close to it. So that's going to be helpful. There's also a second thing we're going to do here, and we're going to add the shrink wrap modifier. So it's under deform, and we're going to do shrink wrap. And this is going to, so we need to be able to select Gorf High Res here. And we want to shrink wrap this onto our Gorf here. So it's doing two things. So we can turn off selection of Gorf again. It's we're snapping things to the mesh, and then also as you add detail, it's just going to kind of shrink wrap it around the face. So we're going to still continue to get as much detail as we can out of this, but we're going to have really nice animatable topology. So going down the line here, a couple things to note, or a couple settings to change. If we go, one thing that I've seen people recommend, and this is going to be Gorf low res, is to turn on back face culling. Actually, no, before we do that, we want to be able to just see this on top because you can see that it's kind of hidden in his lip a little bit. So object properties, we want to go to visibility. No, viewport display, sorry, next one down. And we want to show in front. We do this a lot with armatures too. So we want to see it in front here. And if I go into edit mode, so you can see that as I move the vertices around here, it's getting kind of shrunk wrapped and stuck to the face here. So this allows you to work pretty easily without having to try to get the right angle, because you can kind of trust that it's going to be like laying on the face here. Okay. Second thing we'll turn on, let's add a mirror modifier, because this is a mirrored character. So we're just gonna, of course, no brainer, do the mirror modifier here. On the x-axis, mirror object is going to be Gorf. So I need to just eyedrop Gorf high res here like that. And also turn on clipping so that we're not crossing over the center. Great, and I'll turn off the selection of Gorf once again. So like, you can move these all over here like this. So you can see, like, because I have clipping on, once I move it into the center, it just kind of smushes instead of actually passing through each other. So that's helpful. Okay. What's next? Oh yeah. So because we're viewing it on top, you can see that when I'm on the back side of this, I can see through the head. So one thing that I recommend that you turn on is backface culling. So here along the top, we've got our different viewport options. Hit this drop down, and here in options we have backface culling. You can check that, and that just means that when there's the back, you don't see it. And now a thing has happened. This has disappeared, but when I look at it from behind, I can see it. So it's actually doing the opposite of what I want, and that's because when I put this face in here, I rotated it so that the normal was facing the wrong way. This is super easy to fix. Hit the A key to select all for your face here, and then go to mesh and down to normals, and we just want to flip the normals. So we say like the front is actually on the other side, please. So you hit that, and now we can see it here, but we can't see it here. I mean, you can see the wireframe through it, but okay. Now let's start doing this. So actually, my first goal is going to be to like make a loop that kind of goes around the mouth, and again, like the goal here is just to like block things out. Well, we want almost like as little detail as possible to start. And then as you like, once you kind of get the whole head, then you can start continuing to add more detail as necessary. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go, and we're going to just kind of be starting with this one plane, and we're going to just kind of slowly work our way, around the whole head. So I'm going to go 2 for edge select, and I'm just going to, I heard that control right click. Yeah. Okay. So here's your keyboard shortcut. So you can extrude like this, and just kind of continue to go down the line. And I suppose, let me undo. I suppose I should do key and stroke so you can see what I'm doing. Let's go. So whoops, here we go, back in Blender. Extrude to kind of, make faces and things like that is one way. But I learned a new keyboard shortcut today, and that's control. If you hold down the control key and do right click, it's going to extrude to that point. So like I can even just like go down the line and go hold down the control key and go right click, right click, right click, like I guess it doesn't go that fast, but all the way back to the center like this, and then I can just kind of mush this together. Hopefully, maybe go 1 for vertex select. Cool. And is my snapping even working? So you can see that like my vertexes are kind of hovering off of the mesh a little bit. So I may need to like up the strength of this a little bit. So this is kind of strange behavior, but if I try to kind of just select all these and move them back, they do kind of snap. So I don't know. I don't know if I changed a setting or something. Anyway, the other thing that I've seen people do is, so sometimes it can be a little confusing to have like both of these be this kind of ambiguous gray color. So what you can do, if you've got the low res one selected, we can go to I think it's, let's see. Oh yeah, so in viewport display we did in front. We can also just change like the regular color of this, I believe. Oh, maybe this isn't where it happens. Oh, it's not here in the viewport display. If you go down to, oh wait, no. Oh, so I do think I need to add a material to it, but rather than changing the, here it is. It is in this viewport display. So you have to add a material onto it. Then in viewport display you can change this color. Aha. Okay, cool. So now it's a little easier to see here. Okay, let's keep going. So let's edit this. So general rules for retopologizing. We want to have vertexes. It's really good to work with four-sided polygons, and we want to have things be generally of uniform size. So like looking at how I did this here, you can see that this is like pretty square and this is pretty rectangular. So you'll end up kind of, as you're going, kind of adjusting these. And so you don't forget from a long time ago, the keyboard shortcut to slide things along other edges is double G. So if I go GG like this, I can slide this edge kind of along the thing here. And because we have the snapping and because we have the smart projecting on, it's going to kind of stay along the lips really nicely. And this, it's good to do this now. This is not something you want to do like along the way. So like even things like this, if I go 1 for vertex select, you want things to be like pretty square or pretty rectangular. So maybe like if this kind of moves this way, you might do a Control R loop cut here like this. Make sure that's where you want it to be. And we're just trying to keep things like a pretty uniform size so that like animation can come easily like this. And then we can do stuff like this. So like once you get around the face, like maybe you leave this open for now because you're going to want to have like the mouth open and close. Let's go 2 for edge select. Let's do this one. So we can Control right click up here. And then, well, if I go 1 for edge select, make sure that this isn't like clipping. There we go. That's interesting. Or, you know, we can go 2 for edge select and we can E-extrude like this, go up the nose. Here's where our F2 thing comes into place. So if you have 4 edges that meet in the middle, or kind of meet in the middle here like this, you can hit the F key like this, and it's just gonna like kind of block a new thing on here, or like fill in this empty quadrant basically. So I'm going to look here and like go F like this, and you can still move it around and click it, stuff like that. Yeah. So then like, whoops, another F here like this, and you just kind of continue like this, trying to keep things as uniform as possible, and like just slowly building out the rest of the face. You don't even need to like start. You know, continue off the same thing. So like, let's say I want to work on the nose. I can just click off of the mesh here, and I believe if you do Control right click, you can start to add edges like this. Boom. Whoops. Well, actually, if you do 2, yeah. So if you do 2 like this, you can select these and Control right click like this. Oh, so I think it went the other way. Control right click. Wait, what is happening? Oh, it's like way up here. Okay, hold on. Undo, 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 undo. The trick is like I actually want it to be on the mesh here. So if I do Control right click here like this. So why is it doing it on the back? Interesting. What if I do it here like this? Control right click, right click. Interesting. Well, anyway, so I have these here. I can G, what? G. There we go. Well, it may take a little convincing to get it exactly where you want it to be. But now I have this piece on the nose. And so I can move these to where I want them to be. Slowly. And it also doesn't help that I have, like, I'm using really big polygons. I might need to actually make these a little bit smaller. There we go. And what else can we do? So like if you've got these things here, I think, can you F like this? Yeah, so if you just hit the F key, it'll bridge things together too, like that. Maybe we need to R, add a loop cut here like this. So, you know, we're building out the nose. Maybe you G, kind of need to connect these in the middle because we'd be using the clipping like this. And eventually you'll have one complete mesh that goes all the way around. And so, like, let's say you get like everything completed. You've got kind of pretty uniform. See, like right here, maybe I'd add a Control R loop cut here like this. Maybe I just kind of G move these over here like this. So it's kind of a slow process. Tap double G to kind of move these along. But once you have this kind of set up, this basic mesh all the way around your face or the whole body or stuff like that, then you can start to add a little bit more detail. But it's important to just kind of block things out first, get everything covered. And okay, let me just give one more example. So like the eyes, another place that you'd want to have a loop around the eyes. So I'm going to click off of here. I'm going to do control right click like this to make a thing, and yet it went way back there. So come on back to the front. Come on over here like this. Oh my goodness. Why? Why is it like this? Undo, 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 please. Control right click. Anyway. Okay, finally got one kind of around the eye here. So the eye, obviously, as stated, is another great place to create a loop. So I can go 2 for edge select. Remember, control right click. We can just sort of like go around the eyes like this, creating a loop of edges to meet like this. And then maybe you'll have to go back and adjust these. But then what you can do is, once again, like complete the loop. So let's say you spent a little bit more time than I did. You have this edge, shift click this edge, F to bridge those like that. And then you can do 1 to kind of reposition these, you know, just to get things right. So that, once again, animating blinks and things like that are much more easily achieved. I think it's that shift right click that is kind of throwing things off. See, like where are these points even? So it can be slow and tedious, but once it's done, you'll be saving your animators and your modelers a lot of computer resources. Rather than rendering your millions of polygons, they can do your thousands of polygons. And so like you know, it'll always depend on the situation. So, or on the use case. Like, so if this is a main character and this is like an animated movie, like a feature film, you're definitely going to have more, like, you know, 50,000 plus, maybe 100,000 polygons, or maybe not. Like if it's a game, you're probably going to have less than that, maybe like 20,000, maybe even like 10,000 or less. And it kind of depends on the style, and it depends on the platform and things like that. But regardless, this is something that happens a lot in these kinds of media. Anyway, we're at about 30 minutes, so I think that'll do for today. If you have questions or any concerns or doubts, please let me know. I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one. I'm heading to the airport in about 90 minutes, so I'll be going to be out tomorrow and part of the next day, but otherwise I'm happy to reconnect with you. Keep plugging away on those final projects. Make sure you wrap up all of your 1-hour things and any other stuff that's outstanding. And happy modeling. Goodbye.